Hello everyone, this is Neil from Edureka and welcome to this Edureka live session on Power BI dashboard. Now, Power BI has gained a lot of popularity of recently and we've already had a session that had a fundamental introduction to Power BI. In this session, let's look at what we're going to be covering as part of it. We'll first try to get a summary of what Power BI is. We'll just revisit the concept of what Power BI is. After that, we'll talk about what is a dashboard. Moving on from there, we'll look at how to create a dashboard in Power BI and how to use Power BI to solve a real-time scenario. Now, let's first understand what is Power BI. Now, to summarize, Power BI is a cloud-based business intelligence tool introduced by Microsoft in 2013, which was basically a combination of most add-ons that were given to Microsoft Excel. So Microsoft thought, okay, why not have a separate tool in itself which can help solve all these issues? So they came up with Power BI. Now, Power BI has a lot of different features, and talking about the various versions of Power BI that are available, you have Power BI Desktop, you have Power BI Cloud Service, and then you have Power BI Mobile. Power BI Desktop is basically going to be the platform where you will be creating all your reports, analyzing your data, integrating your data, and playing around with your data. Power BI Cloud Service is mainly for viewing your dashboards, working around with your reports, and getting an insight with respect to whatever has been created. Power BI Mobile basically helps you view all your reports and dashboards while you're on the go and is one of the easiest ways for you to keep track of all the changes that happen with your data as well. Now, moving on, let's try to understand what is a dashboard. Now, a dashboard in Power BI basically is a single page, or most often known as a canvas, wherein a visualization is used to tell a story. Now, to help you understand better, let's take it from an organization's perspective in terms of finance. Now, I want to know what my sales numbers are. I want to know the overall expenditure that is being spent there. I want to know how my marketing is doing. I want to know how much is being spent there. I want to know the revenue that I'm getting. I want to know how much is being spent on my employees, how much I'm spending to my third party, and so forth. Now, if I have one single page which gives me all this information, then I'm happy. And that's what exactly is required by the higher authorities in an organization. They want a brief overview to understand how it works out. And Power BI helps you do that. When I have all this data present in a single page, it solves most of the questions that comes up to anyone's mind as such. Now, moving forward, let's try to understand how Power BI dashboard is different from a report in Power BI. Now, we'll mainly be looking at these major factors, which is the pages, the data sources, the capability of pinning, how we can filter the data, whether we can set alerts, feature, natural language query, whether we can change the visualization type, and customization. Now, firstly, talking about pages, a report is mostly a detailed view with respect to the various insights required. So it usually has at least more than one pages in a given present scenario. Whereas a dashboard is restricted to just one single page, which gives me a complete overview with respect to whatever I want to understand. Now, coming down to a report aspect. Now, with respect to the data sources present there, usually it's just one single source of data that you would be working around with, wherein what you would be doing is that you would be presenting different views or different analysis, different visualizations from that single data source. But when it comes to a dashboard, here it's an overview. So you would have multiple reports being integrated together so that I can give a gist or a story here. So thereby I can include multiple data sources here as part of my dashboard. Now, coming to pinning aspect, what pinning basically is that if I wish to place a specific visual onto a dashboard, I can do that. But when it comes to a report, I can only pin the entire report onto my dashboard. I cannot specifically pin an individual aspect as such. Now, again, coming down in terms of filtering the data, then what happens is that it's quite easy for me to filter my data, highlight my data, slice my data, and process this data as well while I'm working with reports. But when it comes to a dashboard, I cannot manipulate the existing data on which the visualizations are built. Now, this is basically due to the core difference with respect to how these views are available. In a report, usually it's a edit access that you get, but whereas in a dashboard, it's mainly a view related access that you get. Now, coming down to alerts that you can set. Now, let's say I have a data, I want to understand with respect to a certain change. Let's say I hit a revenue of 5 million. So when that happens on my dashboard, I can set an alert to give me a reminder or send me an email, a message, or a notification as well. And all this can be configured on my dashboard itself. But whereas when it comes to a report, this is mainly not possible. Coming down to the feature aspect, now while I'm working with different reports and different dashboards, feature mainly helps me identify which are more important reports, which are my essential, which are on priority. So feature option helps me categorize all this data as per my requirement. Now talking about natural language querying, now all of us love to analyze our data. Now, wouldn't it be easy if I did not need technical assistance? If I could just write my query and the system would give me back. That's where Power BI dashboard has a huge advantage in comparison to any report that is present. I can directly write my questions and I can get my output in form of a visual. We'll be seeing that as part of this session as well. Now, in terms of customization, as I had mentioned to you earlier, dashboards are mainly view only access, so you cannot manipulate the data or the visualization as such, but you can reorganize them, move them here and there, or even delete them as such. But whereas when I come into a report, there I can play around with it as much as I wish to. Now coming down to Power BI. Now if you wish to get started, then you need to install either Power BI desktop, or what you can do is you can go on to Power BI's website and then get started. Let me just show that to you. So this is Power BI's website. Okay, so this is basically powerbi.microsoft.com, and here you can just click on the option start free, which in turn will give you the access to download Power BI onto your system. Now you can either do that, or what you can do is that you can either do that, or you can directly sign up here, wherein you can access Power BI service. So what I would recommend is that you download Power BI desktop onto your system and begin working on it. Okay, now let me just go on and launch my Power BI desktop. Just give me a minute. Meanwhile, if you do have any questions, you can put it across in the chat box. Either me or my team will be able to pick them up and give you a complete answer to your questions. Okay, so I see a question here from Siddharth. So Siddharth is asking, is programming required to learn Power BI? No, Siddharth, you don't need to learn programming to work with Power BI, because it's a very easy to use tool. Now using Power BI, you can create various visualizations, you can work with respect to your data analysis, and is one of the most easiest tool to work around with. So you don't need to have any specific programming language as such. Okay, it's mainly you would be working on drag and drop operation, and while you're analyzing your data, some fundamental knowledge of SQL would be helpful, but again, it's not a hard prerequisite as such, so anyone can get started with Power BI. Okay, so this is what my Power BI would look like. Okay, so once you've installed Power BI on your system, this is my Power BI desktop, and this is the home screen that you get. So again, one thing that I would recommend is that you create an account on Power BI, because the reports that you would be creating need to be published on Power BI service, where the dashboards would be created. So make sure you have signed up with a user ID and then logged in your Power BI desktop as well. Okay, so you have the option to log in here. I have already logged in at present. So first, let's get in our data. Let me give you a glimpse of the data that we are going to be working with as part of this session. Now, before that, let me go back to my presentation, and here let's try to understand what exactly are we trying to achieve with respect to today's session. Now, we'll be working with a data set of a superstore, and this data has been collected from a superstore in US, and it's spread across different states and different countries as well. Now, apart from that, this data was collected from 2011 all the way till 2014. Now, we'll mainly be trying to gain 4 insights as part of this session. Now, the first insight that we're going to try to get is the overall performance. What I need to understand is the overall trends of the sales and profit of the superstore, as well as understand the performance in different regions as well. So let me go back to my Power BI, and here you have the option of importing different data sets. So this comes when I select on get data. So these are the different data sources from which I can load my data. Okay, now for this session I'm just going to be using an Excel file, so let me just click on Excel. Okay, so this is my global superstore data. Okay, so when you've selected your data, so the first thing that you get is you get a preview or a glimpse of your data. Now this in turn is very useful, wherein you can understand how the data looks before you load and work with it. Now there are mainly 3 tables present in my Excel file. So I have orders, I have people, and then I have returns. Okay, now here there's basically a limit set for the number of rows that you've taken. Okay, by default it's set to a limit of 100. Okay, now here what happens, I get a glimpse of whatever is present in the table. So I know there's a row ID, I know order ID, order date, ship date, and so forth. Apart from that, I have people, and I also have the option of return. Now the reason that this view is really helpful is that sometimes while loading the data there may be some inconsistencies. Now if you notice, with respect to people table as well as return table, the first row is not picked as the column header. So what I want to do is that before I load these tables, I want to ensure these are the column headers. So what I'll do is I'll just select all these 3 tables, and then I'll click on the edit option. Now once I do that, Power BI basically gives me the feature to edit my data before completely loading it into Power BI. Okay, so automatically the Power Query editor has opened up. So when you want to manipulate your data into Power BI, this is the place where you will be playing around a lot. So I'll be coming back here a little more. Okay, now what I'll do is let me just select the option. Now you can either select each column and drag it, or there's this option present here, use first row as header. So I'll just select this, and automatically the first row gets promoted to column headers. Similarly, let me do that to my returns table as well. Okay, now once I'm done with this, let me just close and apply these changes. So it may take some time, so I request you to be a bit patient. Okay, so my data has been loaded, so that I can find out with respect to the columns present here. These are basically my tables, and then once I click on them, I can see the various columns present in each of the tables as well. Now, I'm quite sure some of you would have attended our previous session on Power BI, but let me just give you a simple overview of Power BI desktop as well. Okay, so there are basically three major workspaces that you would be working around with. Okay, so there's your report workspace, which is the default workspace that you're seeing. Okay, this workspace mainly is used to create various visuals and identify which requirement and manipulate the visuals in itself. Then you have your data workspace. This is the second workspace, and this is the place where you can see your data that is present in Power BI. Now if you wish to add new data to this, or if you wish to manipulate this data, then you have the option present here to edit queries. Okay, once you hit on this, the query editor gets open. So remember how we had seen the same window earlier? So this is how you reach to it through your Power BI. Okay, now here you have the option to manipulate it, play around with your data, and do anything that you wish. Now I see some of you asking, how is Power BI different from Tableau as such? Now Tableau mainly is a data visualization tool. In Power BI, apart from data visualization, you also have the access to data integration and data manipulation as such. You can create whatever that you want with the data that is present. You can change it as per your requirement, you can filter it, you can process it, you can merge it. You can even write a query present here to convert the data as per your requirement. So here you have the complete access to manipulate the data as well. So it's not just a data visualization tool, but it's more powerful, it's more effective as a data manipulation tool as well. Okay, so let me just close this. And talking about the third workspace is a relational workspace. Now, when you're working with multiple tables, then there's usually a relationship that is present between these tables. So what happens here is this table gives you a simple overview with respect to how the tables are connected to each other. Now by default, what Power BI does is that it identifies the relationships and then it maps it automatically. But this may not always be right, so make sure that you verify it. Now here you can see there's already a relationship being maintained between the returns table and the people table based on the region present here. So again, Power BI has automatically detected this and created this. So this is a really helpful workspace when you're working with multiple tables. Now coming back to our report workspace, now the first insight that we had to get was the performance insight. So let me first begin by renaming this sheet. Let me call it overall performance. Okay, now what do I need here? If I need to identify the overall performance, then there are basically two things. I need my profit, I need my sales. So first let me select profit. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so when I select a specific column in itself, Power BI automatically determines which is the most apt visualization for it, and it creates a visualization by default. Okay, now to the profit, let me add sales as well. Okay, now I have profit, I have my sales. Now I want to understand the requirement here better. So what I'll do here is that I'll bring in my order date as well. So this in turn will give me an easier access to identify how it works. You can either select the option here or you can drag it and drop it to the visualization as well. Okay, now what it has done is that it's actually it's given me a visualization in terms of the profit and sales as a clustered bar chart with respect to the different years as well. Okay, so I don't want this, I want it as a line graph. So what I'll just do is I'll just select the line chart option here and automatically it's going to get converted. So this is something that's more easier for me to understand. So I have the data from 2012 all the way up till 2015. Okay, now what I need to do is that I want to add in the region data also. Okay, I want to identify the regions which are performing well. So I'll bring in the regions, I'll drop it here. Okay, now what happens is that I don't see any change here. This is mainly because Power BI has actually created another layer here. Okay, so it's actually created two different layers. Here what I'm seeing is the profit and sales by year, and if I drill down, then what happens is that it becomes profit and sales by quarter. Now this is basically because there are different dates. Let me just remove that from here. I'll remove month, day, okay, and let the year just be there. Now year, quarter, and this is with respect to the different regions as well. Okay, so here this is profit and sales with respect to the different regions, and what Power BI has done is that it's summarized all the data over the 4 years that my data was present, and then it's given me the profit and sales data. Okay, so this is a very interesting visualization. Now same visualization I've used to represent two different things. I have my sales and profit by year, I have my sales and profit by quarter, I also have my sales and profit by region. This basically will give me a very good analysis with respect to my overall performance. Okay, Now let's go back to our presentation. Let's see the next insight that we're trying to get. Okay, now let's try to identify the performance of different states. I want to identify how each state is actually functioning. Okay, now this data, although is collected from a US based superstore, it's spread across different countries. So what we'll do is we'll try to understand the performance of each state in United States alone. So let me go back to my Power BI. Let me create a new sheet where I'm going to store this data. Now let's say I want my sales, I want my profit, and let me bring in my region as well. Okay, now again it's creating a bar chart for me, so this is not how I want it. Let me just change it to a graphical map. So what I'll do is I'll use a map visualization, and then the same data that I had seen earlier is going to be represented here. Okay, so there's an issue here. Let me just rechange this. Okay, so it's changing now. Okay, there seems to be an issue with Power BI. Let me just close this. Okay, so we'll take a different approach here. Let me create a blank visualization first. So for that, just click on any visualization. Okay, now to this, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add regions. So my regions is going to be my location. So regions comes into the picture here. Then, okay, what I'll do is rather than regions, let me bring in states. Okay, I have states here. I'll bring in my sales, and I'll bring in my profit. Okay, let me just use a different visualization for this. I think there's an issue with Power BI because I have just updated it today. So okay, what I'll do is I'll just filter this data as well. Okay, let me bring in a country filter. Now if you want to add a filter to any visualization, then you have the option present here below itself. So let me bring in the country filter here, and this is going to be a visual level filter. Now talking about the different types of filter that you can add here, there is visual level filter, which basically is going to be applied on one specific visual. Then you have page level filter, a filter that is going to be applied across the complete page. So let's say you have multiple visuals on a page, then you can use a page level filter. And then there's basically a report level filter. So this filter is going to be across all the pages in a report. So let me come down here, and as you can see, there are different countries here. So let me just make sure I have United States checked. Oh, seems like an issue there, but not a problem. Let me try the third visualization here. Okay, so this is working. So I think there is an issue with Power BI on that, but don't worry. Again, when you talk about visualization, Power BI gives you multiple options in itself. So here itself, you can see I have maps for geographical representation. I also have a filled map. Basically, the filling is based on the values present. And then I also have a geological specific map. Now here by default, it is for United States. Okay, so let me just go back. Now here the location is based on the states, the color saturation is based on the sales, I'm sorry. Okay, and I'll bring in profits here as well. Okay, now sorry, I'm that. Now what it is doing is that it's setting tooltip to be my profit. Now what do I mean by tooltip to be profit is when I hover over any specific region, then I can see the profit also in that specific region. Okay, so let's say I want to change this little more. Okay, I want to identify which I don't like the color present here. So for that, let me go into the next tab, okay, which is the visualization tab present here. Under the visualization, you have the second option present here. Now here, if you go into the data color option, here you have the option of adding different colors to different states as well. Okay, apart from that, if you come down, you can change with respect to the border. You can set the background for this as well. Let's say if you want to add a background image, you can do that as well, so that also can be specified. Now I'm not specifying anything as such as the moment, okay, and you can set a zoom. So again, with any visualization, there's a lot that you can explore on, there's a lot that you can work around with. Okay, so with Power BI, even if you take a 3 hours or if you take a 5-hour session, we would not be able to explore it completely as such. Okay, now the third tab present here is the analytical tab. Now analytical feature is not available with all the visualizations, but we'll be seeing that in our third visualization. Okay, so there we'll try to understand how this analytical tab will help us get a better insight on our data. Okay, now so this is coming in terms of a graph visual. Now okay, this also does not meet my final requirement. I want to change it to a scatter plot. Let me select scatter plot, and here what it's doing is that it's specifying a scatter plot details. In my x-axis, it is taking to be sales, and let me bring in my profit. I think profit is going as tooltips. Let me keep my y-axis as profit. Okay, so it's going to plot it across sales and profit. So this is my final image that you see. So it's a completely detailed scatter plot here. Now what I'll do is let me draw a line here to identify regions which are in profit and which are in sales. So let me go to the analytical tab, and here you have the option of X constant line and Y constant line. Okay, now if you see here, my values for sales are in millions. Okay, I see this, the text seems a bit small, so let me just increase that there. I'll make this 20. Okay, yeah, that seems better. So let me do that the same with y-axis as well. Okay, so I have my sales starting all the way from millions. Okay, and my profit is not exactly in positive. I have regions where I have negative profit as well. So this is bad. Now to help me understand this better, let's draw a constant line. Okay, so my X constant, let's say I want to keep it at 100,000. So this is just a random value. Okay, now it's going to be at 100,000. Okay, so any region that has profit more than 100,000 is definitely something that is helpful for me. It could be in terms of profit, it could be in terms of sales as well. Now again, I don't want negative profit, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add an y constant line as well. Now here, let's say I'll keep it at about 22,000. Okay, and let me close this. So here what you can see is that my entire scatter plot has been differentiated into 4 different regions. Okay, now what this helps me basically understand is that if I have a region above both the lines, then this is an ultimate region. This is a very useful region where I have very good sales, I have very good profit. Okay, now basically in this category there are only 3 regions. Okay, I have California where my sales is about 457,000 and my profit is about 76,000. Same time I also have New York and I have Washington. Now when I come down, okay, Texas gives me a sale of about 170,000, but it's a region where I have minus profit. That is, it's minus 25,000. So definitely I need to think a little more. So I need to understand and invest this area better. Same I can see with respect to Pennsylvania. Okay, now if you look at the left top quadrant, okay, these are regions that are okay. They are slightly above, they're giving me profit, but they're not bringing in much sales. So these are good regions where I can improve my sales as well. The fourth quadrant are regions where I need to invest some time. These regions are not meeting my minimum sales requirement, nor are they bringing me the necessary profit requirement as well. Although this is not a negative profit for Virginia, but still it's not crossing my threshold of 22,000. So I need to invest most time, I need to identify. So these are just some of the real world instances what a visualization or what an report or even a dashboard can help you understand as an organization. Okay, let me go back to my presentation. Let's take the third understanding where we'll try to get a segment wise overview to understand how my Superstore is doing in different regions. Now I have different segments in which my products are going to be sold. So let me understand how this works out in different regions. Okay, let me come back. Let me add a new report. Okay, before that, let me just rename this. Let me call this region wise profit sales, and this is going to be my segment. Again, now here what I'm going to do is that I have two categories here. Okay, I can either take my segments or I can take my subcategories. So subcategories seems a little more better for me. So let me pull in my subcategories. Okay, so this by default is giving me a table form wherein it's just showing me all the values present in my subcategories. To this, if I'll bring my sales and my profit, again it stays in the same form. But yes, it is good, but it's not very visually appealing. So let me change it. Let me bring in a clustered column chart. Okay, this seems a little more interesting. Okay, so now I have my profit and sales based on different subcategories. Now to this, if I bring in my categories as well, let's see what happens. Now what has happened is that again it's created two layers. It's not rejected the new field that I'm adding to it. It's just basically converted it to a new layer. Now if I go to the next level, then it's giving me my sales and profit based on my different categories available. Now I just have three major categories. I have furniture, I have office supplies, and technologies. I think again the text is too small, so let me just increase that. Okay, yeah, that seems better. So I have furniture is as my major category, office supplies and technologies. Okay, this is just a simple overview, but if I go a layer up, then I can actually identify based on the subcategories which are doing well and which aren't. Okay, so this is basically again a different representation. Now again, if you want to change it, one of the other visualizations that I would use is a tree map. Okay, tree map basically differentiates it completely. Okay, so here what happens is it identifies the most popular subcategory and then it gives me a view, but at the same time it shows me both profit and sales here, which is not very clear. So let me go down to the next level. Now here again I have my technology, furniture, and my office supplies. Again the differentiation is with respect to the sales and the profit. But again, this basically is the overall division that happens with my numbers as such. So again, not always every visualization may meet your requirement. So let me go back. I prefer a clustered column chart itself. Okay, so now I have a segment wise overview of how my sales and profit are doing. Now again, if you bring in segment here as well, this is just going to create another new layer with respect to this, and here I have my segments as well, whether it's my consumer, whether it's my corporate, or whether it's home office space who have more products taken up from me. So again, when you add new fields, Power BI never rejects it. There are few cases wherein you cannot create a specific visualization given the input, but this is mainly because Power BI in itself tells you, okay, this is not the right input for this visual, try something else. So in only such cases does Power BI reject a specific input, but more often than not, Power BI will accept most of your inputs, and if not possible on the same level, it will create a new level as well. Okay, so let me go on and let's look at the final insight that we're going to try to get as part of this. Now, this is basically a revenue generated option. Now, I need to identify the revenue generated by each product, and I want to also understand which is hampering my growth. Okay, now let me go back. So Last one, let me add in revenue. Now, revenue basically requires just two major things: my sales and my profit. But to get a better insights, let me add in the dates as well. I'll make it quarterly. Okay, I'll bring in my order dates. Then what it's doing is that it's taking year, quarter, month, and day. I'll remove month and day, and let me do a quarterly. So here by default, it's set it in a descending order. Now, if you want to change it, just click on more options here. Okay, and then you can change the option here. Okay, sort by quarter again is set like that. So again, you can sort it by sales number. Okay, now it's already changed. So it's quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four. Okay, that's better. Okay, this is my sales and profit as per different quarters as such. Okay, that's great to see. Now, what I want to do is that I want to identify which categories come into this picture. So, which category is hampering my growth? Okay, now I see that I have furniture that is bringing me this much input, this much sales, but the profit is relatively less. I have my overall office supplies that's bringing me good number of sales, and relatively it's going to be helpful because it brings you a corresponding profit as well. When I come to technologies, yes, this is the biggest that I bring in, but what is the profit that it brings me? So this is where analytical comes into picture. Now here what I can do is that I can set a minimum line based on which I can identify which are the categories that doesn't bring me good revenue and I need to invest some more time. Okay, this is on a very overview level. So let's say I'm going to add a minimum line. Okay, now what it's done is that by default it's taken it for sales. Let me do it for profit. Okay, now here you can see, right, it's considered furniture to be below my margin line. Okay, now what I need to identify is how I can grow this. Similarly, you can add a constant line, which is more useful when you have variating values, and on a real-time analysis basis, constant line is what helps you as well. Okay, so with this we've completed our report. Now comes the time when we are actually playing with our dashboard. Okay, so for that what you need to first do is that you need to save this report. So let me call this dashboard live. Okay, and then I'll just save it. By default it's going to be a PBIX file. Now why am I saving this is that it's going to create a local copy of this report. So even if you want to share this report to someone else, then you can share the PBIX file and they can import it. Now comes the chance to publish this. Once you click on publish, what happens is that Power BI desktop actually publishes this report onto its cloud-based service, which is Power BI service. Okay, yes, it successfully published this. Okay, now let me go back to my Power BI service. Okay, so this is what my Power BI service looks like. So once you've logged into Power BI, this is the view that you would be seeing. Okay, now, okay, it's not showing me anything. Let me just refresh this. Now in my workspace, I have a report present here that is Power BI, that is Dashboard Live. Okay, now if I click on my Dashboard Live option here, then this in turn is going to open up the report that we have just created. Okay, so you can see here there are all the 4 pages present here. Okay, it's taking some time, so let's be a bit patient. Meanwhile, any questions, you can put it in the chat box. Okay, I see Abhay asking, can we integrate Power BI with cloud services? Definitely you can, Abhay. You can integrate it with most popular cloud services that are available in the market today. Okay, so any of the cloud services that are available, you can definitely integrate to them. And Okay, so I have another question. Is Power BI a freeware? Okay, definitely you can download Power BI free of no additional cost. Okay, Power BI also has a pro service wherein you can actually share the reports with anyone that you want. Okay, so if you wish to create a dashboard and share it with another person, then you need to go with the pro feature, which basically is going to cost you $10 a month. Given that you compare it with Tableau, which costs you about $1,500 a year, definitely Power BI is one of the easier and cheaper tools. And this is one of the reasons that Microsoft is promoting Power BI as well. Now, it's not just an analytical tool, it's mainly a visualization tool that has a lot of analytical feature associated with it. Okay, now coming back to our dashboard. Now if you look at our dashboard, we have all the reports present here. Now if you want to modify any of the reports that you have just created, then you can edit the report in itself. Okay, so click on edit report and you have the option to edit this report. Now you might be wondering, okay, if I can edit a report already on the dashboard, then why do I want Power BI desktop? Mainly because if you wish to manipulate your data, perform any operation on your data, then that can be only done on Power BI desktop. It cannot be directly implemented on Power BI dashboard. Okay, here whatever manipulation or input that you provide will be static. You cannot manipulate the associated data to any visualization. Now finally coming back, let's begin creating our dashboard. Okay, so first what we'll be doing is that we'll be creating a dashboard, and the easiest way to do that is by pinning it to a dashboard. So click on pin visualization option here, and then it's going to prompt me whether I want to pin it to an existing dashboard or a new dashboard. So here let me call it dashboard live and then pin to it. Same, I'll pin all my visualizations to it. Okay, so it's given me a confirmation. Okay, so I've pinned the 4 visualizations that we have just created. Now let me go to the dashboard option present here. So every report and dashboard that you're creating will be present under my workspace. So again, usually when you're working with different visualizations, different projects, then you can create different workspaces as well. Now by default, you'll have one workspace, that is my workspace. Here all the dashboards, reports, as well as workbooks that you're uploading, the data set associated with your reports, everything would be available here. So this is what by default a dashboard would look like. Now here is just a simple overview with respect to the visualizations that we have created, and these are some of the visualizations that you use while you are working on a real world scenario. But one thing what you need to understand, how a visualization on a dashboard is different from a visualization on the report, is that you cannot have multiple leveled visualization present here. Okay, what happens when you create a multiple level visualization? Definitely you can see that on a report. A report in turn can be also distributed to someone else. You can share it across email, you can share it across cloud, you can even embed a report. But on a dashboard it can just be one single layer. Okay, and again, the interactivity is also something that is really helpful. So if someone has the access to view the reports as well, if they click on a visual, it goes back to the report. Okay, let me go back to my dashboard, and here let me show you how Power BI dashboard has the natural query solving ability. So you see this, ask a question about your data. So here let me ask a question. Let's say, which region region has the greatest profit? Okay, so this is my query, and if you see here, what Power BI has done is that it's taken this input, it's converted it to natural language, and then it's given me my output also in a visualized form. Okay, this in turn makes it quite easy for me or anyone associated to work with this data and understand a better insight. Let's say tomorrow you give your boss this dashboard and he feels, okay, these all requirements don't give me a complete insight, or he gets a sudden question, then he can use Power BI Q&A and get this insight. Now, Power BI in itself comes with a lot of pre-built dashboards and instances. Now, I've already configured my Salesforce platform with Power BI. Okay, I've not created any visualization here. What I've basically done is that I have a lot of data present on my Salesforce platform, and once I integrate it to my Power BI, then what it does is that it fetches all that data, and in turn it creates me multiple reports and dashboards which are based on my input data. So these are some of the most commonly used report and dashboard associated to a Salesforce platform. So I have not created any one of them. Automatically these were created when I link them to my Power BI. Okay, now any visualization that you click relates you to your report as well. So if you want to see the report behind all this, just click on a visualization. So a report here that you can see is a way more detailed. So it's basically a 5-page report when I have my opportunities, my lead source. Okay, now I also have my closed sales data, a sales representative data, as well as my account data as well. So all this is automatically created by Power BI, okay, based on an existing template of Salesforce. Now it's really helpful when you don't want to invest a lot of time but you already have your data present there, and any operation that you want to perform here can be done. Now like I said, if your data is present on a cloud platform, you can definitely integrate your data and bring it in. If you want to have a constant update with your data, you can also perform a data refresh on that as well, wherein the data and the visualization get updated on a real-time basis as well. So it's a really helpful and easy to use tool. Now I'm quite sure at least some of you who have been part of this session would go back home today, would definitely be able to try Power BI and get a good insight with respect to it as well. Okay, so with this we come to a conclusion of this session. Now you can also check out our Power BI training page, which is edureka.co/Power BI training, and you can check out all our upcoming batches. So we have both weekday and weekend batches, and based on your request, you can also reach out to our sales team who would be able to guide you as well. Apart from that, if you're looking for more information on Power BI, you can check out our blogs on Power BI tutorial and Power BI dashboard. And in case if you're looking to prepare for an interview, then you can check out our interview question blog on top 50 questions for Power BI. Okay, apart from that, if you want some more info on Power BI, you can check out our Power BI playlist, and make sure that you're subscribed to our channel and notified so that you can get updated to all our upcoming sessions on various courses as well. Now, since you've all stuck for so long, you can fill out this survey form, which will help you get an additional discount on our website. And this is not applicable only on Power BI. You can avail this discount on all the courses present here. So in case if you do have any more questions, you can put it on the chat box and I'll be happy to take them. Okay, see, I see a question here from Rohit Raj. Who can learn Power BI? Rohit, anyone can learn Power BI. Okay, now in this session, if you followed it completely, you've understood. I'm quite sure you've understood how easy it is to work with this data, how easy it is to get an insight with Power BI as well. So anyone can learn Power BI. There's no specific restriction as such. Okay, I think that's about it. Thank you for staying for long. Hope you have a great weekend. Thank